Hi there, I'm Anthony, a volunteer with LoveCry.
And I'm Jesse. I'm trying to run LoveCry right now.
Awesome. And Jesse was talking about this amazing, important topic that will affect every second of your life, and that's mindfulness. And so, I think the first image that comes to mind for me for mindfulness is some guy wearing an orange robe in some foresty part of Nepal, or like when you're sitting with your legs crossed and you're breathing. So, like this couple of minutes a day when we do mindfulness. Um, and that's not what, the things you were saying about it is like, wow, that's huge. That's like who are you in every second of your life has to do with mindfulness or
Yeah,
lack of it, right?
yeah, I agree. Because mindfulness is, I find that a lot of people kind of make it like it's for this type of person, or
Oh, right, right.
for a calm person, or
Oh,
that's
right.
just your
Yeah, yeah, that's
lifestyle.
for those guys in the robes, or
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
for that granola person with the Birkenstock sandals.
yeah.
Like,
Which,
it's
which,
not, it's
yeah,
not for me.
which
I'm just,
instantly,
I'm just trying to live my life and raise my kids and keep my job, So I don't have time for this mindfulness stuff, right?
yeah, which should immediately point you to the ego. Like
uh,
when that's being said in regards to something that challenges the ego, it's always, oh, that's not for us, or that's wrong, or
I'm
that's
too busy for
bad,
that.
yeah, that's
Like,
boring,
I
that's
need to
not
be
for me.
practical. Like, that's not
Yeah, that's not
practical.
life stuff, that's just for like people who need to get better.
Right, right. Or maybe
But
when I retire, I'll get into that stuff.
yeah, but to me it's way more important than that, because mindfulness for me, if it wasn't for that, like I wouldn't be connected to my daughter. My daughter came back about 5 years ago, from a parent alienation situation, and it's been very difficult. She's disassociated. She has troubles like even trusting me, being there, like understanding what's happening. And so that's made me upset. That's made me bothered, concerned, especially with how the system played this and allowed my daughter to come, like, feel like this. And so without that mindfulness and being aware of my anger, my resentment, my upset, like jealousy, like I would have automatically been like, get out of my life. You're just
Mm,
hurting me. Like, you don't
mm,
even care what's happened.
mm,
But she
mm.
can't. She doesn't even know how to even care about herself. And that's where mindfulness comes in. It gives you that kind of deeper understanding so that you don't pass on your pain onto your family, to your friends, to colleagues, to your life. Um,
So this is a very selfless thing that you're talking about mindfulness, that, whatever we have that we're not mindful about and aware of properly, we're going to like basically shit it on everyone around us because we're not owning it or even aware of it ourselves. Now, from a more selfish point of view, mindfulness is just about knowing yourself. And you said about the ego is like the ego is challenged, so it's like, oh, that's not for you, that's for like the granola people or the Tibetan people or whatever. And so the ego being challenged is sort of like you're pulling the curtain back on that little guy in the Wizard of Oz, and
yeah.
now he's lost his power because he's not hiding behind a curtain pulling all these levers. And so the ego is your friend, and you're just going to say, hey, you're a very valuable part of my boardroom. But when it's things become unconscious, then they powerfully drive you. So like, things that you've done in your life, you're like, why did I do that? Or why is it that I hang with the wrong kind of people, or I become romantically involved with the wrong kind of people, or why is it that I feel down? I don't know why I'm down, or why am I anxious? There's no reason. There's always a reason for everything. And so mindfulness from a selfish point of view is just you having the steering wheel in your hands and you being the proper chair of the boardroom rather than someone in the boardroom like the ego or your fears or unresolved things that are running the boardroom, and your chair's being thrown out the window.
Mm.
Like,
Yeah, and when you care, it's harder to deal with society because the ego is running everything. So when you care, it's a lot harder because your conscience comes into play and says, I don't want to do this.
mm.
This isn't right.
So this is a bad part of being mindful,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Or
yeah.
being in tune with yourself.
Yeah, because you're
But
opening that door, like you say, you're revealing the truth. So now, like you've exposed them. Now, like the ego's like, oh damn, they know. Like it gets upset and tries to panic and like act like it's gonna die and hide, protect yourself, be safe. And then yet, like It's yeah, okay, good. You forgot about that. You know, okay, good. Don't worry, don't worry. We'll just ignore this person. We'll feel better about ourselves.
But it's like being in the matrix, and you're pulled out of that pod, and you're like, whoa, I was just asleep in a pod. So being mindful, to the extent that we can be mindful, because it's a process,
Yeah,
and no one's at 100. So to the closer you can get to it, the more awake you are, the more present you are in that moment, and the less you're affected by things, in the sense of like, why am I anxious, why am I down, like, so you'll be more in tune with, so we have all emotions. Like, it's normal and healthy to have sadness, to have anger, to have jealousy, to have resentment. But it's when we push it off, it's like, well, I'm a good person, so I don't feel those things, and we
yeah,
ignore those things, and then those things that we ignore end up getting shit on everyone around us who gets close to us, because we're not mindful of who we are, and of all the little pieces of ourselves, and all the members in the boardroom doing what they're doing. So, it's okay to want to convince yourself you're better than you really are. That's okay. But just be aware of it. And then you're going to be more awake and more aware and more who you really actually are.
because mindfulness, I find a lot of people, they just think that it's about like, oh, like love, like I feel love now, and forgiveness, like
Mhm.
it just comes because I meditated,
All these
you know.
positive things,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
I'm gonna breathe in love and acceptance and breathe
yeah,
out
yeah,
negative stuff.
without dealing with what's actually creating that inside yourself, your thoughts, your mind, and with all these like conditions and things like that, we've suppressed so many different ideas of who we are that we don't know who we are. We're trying to be this thing that we think we are based on what society has constructed for us without using our hearts. So we kind of
Mm,
turn our hearts off without mindfulness. The
mm.
mindfulness kind of like opens your heart so you don't just like, whatever, and just tear through like, who cares? No one else cares, so why should I care? It gives you like this, it's more of a freedom than an entrapment by your pain. That pain will go away. That pain, when you realize and face it and understand it, it doesn't stay there and go like, fuck you, I hate you for not caring about my pain. It actually feels better to feel understood.
Mm,
And that's
mm.
where mindfulness comes in. It just understands your pain.
Right.
And then you understand others' pain, so you don't want to inflict it or feel like they deserve it because they're acting like this. Like this is
So it
where.
gives you not only awareness of yourself, but better awareness of other people. Because the more you know yourself, the more you can understand another person. And the less you know yourself, the less you can possibly understand another person. It's that thing that happens internally to happen externally. And yeah, you mentioned, pain and sadness, and we're afraid to look at it. It's like, well, I'm feeling sad, but if I really delve into why I feel sad, it's going to be too painful for me to handle. And actually, it's the opposite, that you go and you heal things like these pains, like
And you're not
examine
given
your
anything
pain.
you can't deal with. So I just
Ah,
want to throw it in
oh
here.
no,
Yeah,
that's a
nothing
good point. Like,
in life. You're not given anything that you can't deal with.
so when you're looking inside yourself, and you can get help if you want. You can do part of the process on your own with help, whatever. Help can be professional, it can be friends, it can be family.
Yeah,
When you look at these problems and unsolved mysteries inside yourself, you're like, for example, like, a while back I got dumped and I felt so bad and I felt so hurting, and I did some therapy, and then I realized that that was what my previous hurts were feeding into that situation. So once, these previous hurts kind of came up again, and my life manifested that to happen so that these previous hurts could be addressed. And if they're not addressed, you will keep manifesting the same problem until you do look at those previous hurts. They can go back to infancy, they can go back to childhood, they can go back to teenage years. And in my case, it was all of those times of my life. And I revisited these things, and I integrated, and I as you said, when you look at them and you really take a close feel of those things, then you're dissolving them, because they're not hidden under the carpet anymore, festering and making stink. They're
yeah,
like, you've opened the carpet, you've swept it, you're like, I acknowledge you, that makes sense, you're perfectly right to feel hurt by those things. and you heal that inner child, the inner baby, your inner teenager, and all the past things.
The more you hide it, the more fear you have of it, the more
uh,
anger and resentment are built from it because you're trying to hide it and don't want that feeling
I
to
gotta
come
keep
up.
that stuff under the
Yeah,
carpet.
so then
So
you find reasons, oh, it's their fault or it's this fault. It's, like it's just a constant blaming thing and never really addresses the actual issue at hand because it's just trying to feel better without feeling better, if that makes any
like trying to
sense.
take a shortcut,
Yeah.
and shortcuts don't usually work,
No.
especially emotionally.
Yeah.
Shortcuts don't work. Like, I just want to feel better right now, and I don't want to do any of that dirty stuff, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to peel back the carpet and take a look at that. I just want to feel better right now. So I'm going to do a bunch of affirmations. Affirmations are awesome. I love them. However, they're part of the whole thing. It's sort of like, if you think of making a cake, yeah, you need milk, or if you're not making dairy, you need a milk alternative. You need flour, you need sugar, but you can't just take sugar and make a cake. You need all of these ingredients. You can't just because you have an oven doesn't mean you can make a cake, because you need the ingredients and the oven. So affirmations are one of the ingredients, but a very important part is to look at the past and examine yourself. Like, when have I felt like this before? That's a great question. And then, when have I felt like this before the before? And when did I feel like this before the before the before? And then just heal one step at a time, and then you become more aware of yourself. And that's mindfulness. You're more integrated with yourself.
Yeah, because you could be aware of your feelings in the moment. So when you're become more aware of those feelings, it's easier to access that within inside yourself, and then then it's easy to also see that in others, and then you could see the good rather than the resentment and the anger and the hatred. You actually can see from an understanding perspective why someone would act like this or act out towards that, which then also makes them feel understood, which then also depletes that negative buildup inside themselves. So like it's an everybody thing in a sense because we're all supposed to look out for one another and take care of each other. So by not taking care of ourselves, we're not taking care of others, we're not taking care of community. We're just manipulating ourselves, manipulating community, manipulating the world so that we could feel better without actually getting better. And then that's where mental health is becoming a big problem because no one's dealing with what's causing it. It's the stress at home, the undealt with emotions, the things we have to hide in order to feel okay in society. Because to be a good family or a good person, you have to be like this or think like this. And then if you don't, then you're bad. And then how do you deal with that if you're bad? You
So
know?
this is judgment. So judgment is another reason why people don't do mindfulness things, because they're like, well, if I really look at who I am, I'm not lovable. So I'm going to pretend that I am lovable. If I really look at who I am, I'm just a
No
piece of
one's gonna
crap.
love me.
And to the extent that we unconsciously do that, we're doing that to people around us. So we could convince ourselves that I'm lovable without doing any of the work, and we're rejecting parts of ourselves. And then, as you said, we're rejecting other people. Like, well, they act like that, so I'm going to reject them. That's not a worthwhile person.
Yeah.
And I'm going to walk away from this relationship. I'm going to walk away from this friendship because they did this X, Y, Z. Um, and so it's again that internal stuff that's manifesting externally. So if we get that inner acceptance and that inner work, then it's going to manifest around us, where we're going to see all the value in other people. We're social beings, and that's why COVID has been such a tremendous,
Even if they don't act the way we want them to.
which is manipulation, right? Because I'm only going to accept you if you act the way I want you. So, but if you're doing that to people around you, then you're doing that within yourself. It's a guarantee. What you're doing outside is happening inside, whether you're conscious of it or not.
Yeah.
So, mindfulness is a call to be conscious of what's happening inside.
And it will heal the world. That's where mindfulness comes into play. It's like look at what we've been conditioned to by colonization, by patriarchy, like
Yeah,
what like
colonization is like, your way of living is not valid
yeah,
because it's different than mine. So you're a Druid or a Celt, and I'm a Roman, or you're an Arawak, and I'm like British or African, like or French, or whoever was involved in the slave trade. Like, you are a Central American, and we're the Spaniards, and so like your way of life is not valid, or only ours, and that's colonization. That's like rejection of an alternate way of being. But we're all different people.
yeah.
So, as we accept different facets of ourselves, we can accept and love and appreciate different facets of other people. And I was saying, like, that's why part of why COVID has been such a mental health bomb is because we're social beings. So this stuff that we do inside ourselves affects who we can be in our society. In our society, whether it's your friends, your family, your loved ones, um, like a human being is a social being. And so mindfulness is for you. It benefits you, but it's also going to benefit everyone around
Yeah,
you.
and it helps you to actually be social and understand. It's like active listening in a sense. You actually hear from them instead of judge what they're saying, judge how they're acting. You could actually connect to their heart and feel them rather than just keep it superficial. Hey, how are you? Oh yeah, we're great. Okay, see you tomorrow. Yeah, okay, great, good job. And then go home and like not even care what happens to that person.
But that active listening has to happen inside too. Like
Yeah.
I'm feeling really weird right now, and examine that rather than like, oh, I'm going to hop on one of my addictions, whether it's my phone, whether it's gambling, whether it's porn, whether it's like reality TV. I'm going to jump on a distraction thing, right?
Yeah.
And mindfulness is a call to go within and don't jump to your distraction. And anything can be a distraction. Going to church every day, reading a million books,
Even
all of that.
mindfulness could be a distraction if it's used improperly too. Like that's
Mhm.
the thing is our ego is very tricky. It's very manipulative, and when it grasps things or kind of understands what it's saying without understanding it, it could speak it to you, and then you believe that you're practicing it because you have these words like, well, this person said it, and now I'm saying it in
I'm
my
using the
head.
right terminology,
So yeah,
so
I
yeah,
must
yeah.
be doing it. Like I'm doing good. I'm fine.
Yeah.
Like don't question me. Like, and so then it becomes another way to suppress yourself and suppress your feelings because now you got this higher. Oh, I'm see, look at me, I'm doing this, and I've practiced this. Now I'm more loving than
I do
you.
I do breath
Yeah,
work. I
yeah,
do
yeah,
yoga.
yeah,
Some better than you,
yeah.
because look at you.
You can't hurt me. I'm unhurtable now. I practice mindfulness. Nothing hurts me.
So what do we need to have mindfulness work? Like I think one of the things that we need is humility to admit to yourself, like, hey, I could be better. I have flaws, and that's okay. Accept that because that's part of loving yourself is to love your flaws and to accept your
And then,
flaws.
and then, in a sense, you don't even have to call them flaws because they're a part of who you are. So, like each thing that you've done has made you who you are. So, by kind of calling it a flaw, you're calling yourself a flaw instead of like learning from the like your life. Like, so say you do something, it's not necessarily a mistake because it was to teach you something.
Mm.
So the mistake is not learning. The mistake is not taking that teaching and making it suppressing it. That's a mistake.
But to learn, we need to realize that, hey, I can learn something new, right? Because ego is
Yeah.
like, I'm good where I am, man. I'm good. I'm good. Like that's a very egoic thing. I'm good. I'm good. Okay, you're good, but you can be better. You can grow. You can learn a new
Yeah.
thing about yourself.
Yeah, no, you could definitely, yeah, yeah. Learning is like, if you ever stop learning, then like you're
You're
either
dying.
dead or just lost in yourself, because learning is something that you need to do on a daily basis. And I'm learning even every day, like with my daughter, with my family, mindfulness because like there's different things that make you upset, that anger you, that like like you want this way or they should be like this or why aren't they eating their food or why are they acting like that, like like it's helpful to be able to look inside your mind, see the energy around you, and feel things because then you could communicate to your kids without being reactive, without being upset. You could actually say it to them in a way that they understand rather than an adult's understanding.
Mm,
And that's where it comes important too because kids don't understand it the way we do. They're very simple, very caring, very open, and when you get mad at them you scare them, you hurt them in another sense without, and then so you have to like really like configure and understand like how to communicate with them rather than through your anger. And mindfulness is very helpful for that too because your kids are going to upset you.
so that awareness of yourself brings you more awareness of who you're dealing with,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
allows you to tune into their
yeah,
world,
yeah.
and you gave a great example of a child that has a completely different communication style and understanding, but everyone around you is an example of that child because they're not you. They understand the way they understand. So having that mindfulness of yourself will allow you to also tune into another person better so you can reach them
Yeah.
better
And see
on
past
their
their and
terms.
see past their conditioning. You know what I mean? Because a lot of people are conditioned and they're going to say things that will hurt you, that will affect you, but they're not even going to know it because it's just how they think and feel. But then that's where all this like sensitivity comes into play. Like we're not understanding people. We just want people to like follow our rights, follow what
Right.
we believe,
Yeah, you
believe
don't want
what
to.
we
We don't want to
say.
understand them, but we
Yeah,
want to be understood by them.
yeah,
You
yeah,
better understand me, but I don't have to understand
yeah,
you.
yeah. I don't have, you're just a hateful piece of shit. Like, okay, maybe I am, but like, but what are you now?
Yeah.
Like, aren't you being the same way? So now you're abusing me to feel better about yourself for your own issue, and then that's not very mindful or considerate or caring, and then that kind of suppresses your own issue because now you've made like enemies instead of like understanding each other. Where sometimes, you know, you could have those people that are very rude and like discriminating and like think it's funny to cause problems, but that's not everyone. And if everyone's treated that way, then the issue will never be resolved, and it's just you wanting to be angry. You know, you're hurting about something. You know, and that's fine too. Like that's okay. But to hurt other people with that pain, that's where it becomes not okay. You know, like just because we're hurt, it's not okay to hurt others. And that's where mindfulness comes in a big play because you don't want to hurt others. Even if you feel hurt, you can fix that. You're meant to feel that pain. You're supposed to process that pain and improve the world, not be, oh, this is unfair. This isn't right. This shouldn't be this way. These people are like this. If this was like this would have never happened. It's untrue because you need to learn. You need to see what's happening. And so these things will continuously happen in our lives in order for us to see. And the more we close it down, suppress it, and hide from it, the harder it gets because the stronger those feelings. And then you're just stuck in it because it's so scary because now you have like this mountain behind you. Like,
Oh no, that's not there.
I don't see that. Like, nope, nothing's back there, you know?
And it's never too late. You know, like I have a nutrition website, a health website. It says if you're still breathing, it's not too late.
Yeah.
And breathing can be part of mindfulness too, to pay
Mhm.
attention to how's my diaphragm. You know, diaphragm could be like it wants to cry. Why does it want to cry? You know, so these really tune in. You know, breath can be one way of doing it, but
Anything.
whatever it takes for you know to tune into yourself and to not distract ourselves from what's really going on, and then you'll have more power that way because you're not wasting energy to repress things, and to repress something takes energy. To keep it repressed takes energy ongoing. So that's a payoff of
It will make
mindfulness.
you older faster. That's what I think because you're constantly under stress. Your body's constantly hurting, and the more enlightened you get, the lighter you feel. And that's where I believe even cancer and disease comes into play. Is without this mindfulness, you're constantly like hating yourself. You're constantly like, oh, this isn't good, and holding all this inside, and then you're causing your body problems because the energy's not flowing.
Yeah.
And so when the energy stops flowing, that's when all these things could start to build, and then you get disease and cancer. And I think that mindfulness is a big important part, even if you have cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Because my mentor, she had breast cancer, and she was in remission for like 15, 20 years before she even passed, and she was only supposed to live for a year. But she was the one who taught me the mindfulness, to love myself, all these little tricks about protection and loving and caring and forgiveness. And it helped improve my life. And I would never, like, I hated it at the beginning. Like, I thought it was like stupid, but
Like mindfulness
yeah,
stuff, you're like,
yeah,
this is dumb. Like
yeah, like what is this? Like this
what is this
stupid,
shit?
yeah, like this is garbage. Like am I gay? You know, like sorry for the comment, but like that's how I felt like 20 years ago, you know, and I didn't want to do it. I felt like, you know, but I had something where my daughter needed me and I had to do it. Like in my eyes, in my life, I had to do it. She was gone. The only way to get better and to improve her life was for me to get better and improve myself and my love and my care for her so that I'm not depressed. I'm not hurting for her. She could feel good from me. And that's what I did
So
through
your
mindfulness.
initial catalyst in this work was your love for your daughter, because you
Yeah.
hardly had love for yourself.
Yeah.
So is that love for your
And
daughter
she
that?
taught me that loving her more than me doesn't work
Mm,
because you can't love someone more than yourself.
yeah.
And then that's what helped me learn about love was my daughter because I was like, okay, if I love her, I guess I have to
I
like
got to do this.
steal it with
I got
this.
to do this shit.
Yeah, yeah, you know, it's like,
But
fuck.
you know, you made an awesome point with the body. You know, the body is your receptacle. This is the vase that you're in right now, and your emotions are affecting your body. Like Louise Hay is a great example. So her book became like a huge, pardon me, bestseller, and she had vaginal or cervical cancer, and they did an operation on her. She went through the medical route, and then not long later, she got more cancer in the same area. And so she realized, okay, something else is going on here. So it was, she had some kind of epiphany where I need to examine, what does this mean emotionally? And she went and healed sexual abuse issues that she had repressed. So you can repress all you want, but when you put something under the carpet, it doesn't disappear. It's right there under the carpet.
Gonna
So,
trip on it.
so she did this hard work, where there would have been hatred, there would have been anger, there would have been shame, there would have been all kinds of stuff, mixed feelings. And she did this work and she wrote this book saying that anything that happens in your body has an emotional hidden component. And so the good thing with Louise Hay, she lived for decades after that with never a remission. And I saw her on stage on a video and she was like 80 or 80 something. And she was so vital. And she just had this youthfulness and this vitalness. And you talked about, once you de-repress stuff and stop wasting energy to repress things, you're going to have more energy physically
Yeah.
and emotionally.
Yeah, you're not going to be like weighed down by the depression, because depression is a killer. Like depression makes you feel so lethargic, so like you can't do nothing. What's the point? Who cares?
Mm-hmm.
You know, but that mindfulness helps you find that love and strength to push through even when it's shit, because sometimes days are shit for people. Days are fucking garbage. Like you just
Mm-hmm.
you don't want to even
Like,
live.
why am I here?
Yeah,
This sucks. I don't
like
even
this
want to
is
be
I
here.
don't I have to do this stupid job, I have to be this way, I can't be myself, I can't do these things. Like it sucks sometimes, and that's where mindfulness comes in and makes it pretty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because when you're different, everywhere you are is different.
Yeah.
You know, I've cleaned toilets as part of jobs I've had. So you could be like, oh my God, I'm cleaning a toilet. Like I've hit the bottom of the workforce. And I was like, I'm proud to do that. I'm proud. It's a job. I'm doing my job. I'm proud of this aspect of my job. So literally cleaning a public toilet was fine.
Yeah, yeah,
you know.
because like one thing was said
So who
too,
are you being in that moment? Who are you being in that moment? That's mindfulness.
if you can't accept what you're doing, then you either need to leave it, or otherwise you need to be mindful with it, because that's otherwise you're just doing something resentfully, angrily, and then you're not really benefiting yourself or your job or anything. You're just in resentment and causing yourself mental health issues and problems within your body. So yeah,
And this is
that's
especially
important.
important for, like, in my example, you're cleaning that public toilet with good intentions and you're
Yeah,
being mindful. Anyone who uses that toilet is going to benefit from that good energy. But like a more deeper example, or an example that's potentially more powerful, is if you're cooking food and preparing food for someone. So if you're hating your job and making food, you're going to make people sick. People are going to eat that food. It's not going to nourish them. So you can make that food and say, I'm grateful that I live in a society where we have this, this good food, and I'm grateful to be part of this abundance, and I want to share this with people. I want people to feel good when they eat this, and that's going to make you feel good in your job. So who are you being in your job? Who are you being in your role? Preparing food for your children, preparing food for yourself, for your loved one, for whoever. So food is a big one, I think.
even yeah, even when you're eating it yourself. So say like you have to eat something you think is unhealthy for yourself, and you're like, oh fuck, man, you're
I
stupid.
shouldn't be eating this, but
Yeah,
I'm
this
so
is
hungry.
bullshit, you
Yeah,
know, and
yeah.
you're eating it and you're hating it.
Uh,
So now you're digesting like hate energy into your body, which is causing you more problems than that food would in the first place. So like sometimes if you have to eat certain foods, you have to accept that and understand why you're eating it, rather than being like, oh, this is trash, this is stupid, I'm such a piece of shit, or I'm broke, I shouldn't have to eat these things, but I do. You're actually bringing your food down a level, because it's just like, like I know like people don't believe that people could do what Jesus did and things like that, like make food from nothing, or and but they all say that we're sons of God, and
mm,
so is he. So we all have the capability to make that food better
mm,
or worse,
mm,
depending on
mm.
how we think.
Yeah, I mean, if you're eating like an organic, macrobiotic, whatever, but you're really down on it, like you've got a down energy around that food, it's not going to nourish you in the same way. I had a friend who said something which I think was very true. He's like, better to eat a burger and fries but bless it and be grateful than to eat the healthiest meal and be like drudgery
Yeah,
or
I'd be like,
whatever,
oh,
like.
why am I? Oh, it tastes bad, you know, like oh, this grass eating rabbit
So bless
stuff.
your food. It actually makes a difference. Bless your
Does.
food. Be grateful for it.
Even like I was doing this thing with Native Child, and
Oh,
because
Native
Angel,
Child Services. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, because Angel did this thing where she always did prayers and put stuff up on the walls and things on your on like cups and things, so to like improve the vibration.
Mm,
And then through like doing a like I was doing my co-op with them, and the one lady was talking, I can't remember her name, and she said, yeah, she does a prayer with a glass of water in the morning time, and
mm,
then drinks that,
mm,
to kind of like start her day and puts that energy into herself, which is it's a great way to start the day, and it's like it's just a great intention, but it's also you have to believe in yourself when you do it. You have to believe you're doing something. You
mm.
can't just like be like, oh, okay, I said it. It's not working. Why isn't this doing anything? It's
Yeah, because your belief will give it the power.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Your belief is what makes it.
And you reminded me of Professor Emoto from Japan, who would have people bless water or say thank you
Yeah.
to the water or compliment the water. I mean, it sounds ridiculous, right? You're giving this water compliment, and then he would flash freeze it, and he would take a picture of the crystals it formed, and then he would say have people say bad things to the water, like you suck, you're terrible, and he would flash freeze it, and it was entirely different. Like it was not, instead of being like a beautiful snowflake crystal, it was just like a jagged, like just
Yeah,
not
broken
pleasing.
apart. Yeah.
Yeah, not pleasing to the eye. So Emoto, you can look him up, Emoto. He did a lot of work with water, and we're 70% water. Even like think of dry tuna or dry chicken breast. That's 60-70% water. So even a cracker is 4 or 5% water. So water is in everything. So he's proved, at least with water, which I think is true of every element and everything, but with water, he proved with hard
Yeah.
evidence that you can affect the physical structure of something by your intentions.
Yeah.
You know, another great experiment he did was with two sandwiches in two different classrooms. And as these kids walked into the classroom, in one room they were instructed to tell the sandwich, compliment it, like, "Oh, you look so yummy, you look so great." And the other sandwich is like, "Oh, you suck, I would never eat you." So these two different classrooms with two of the same sandwiches made by the same person in the same container, type of container. One sandwich went moldy and bad really fast, and the other one stayed good for days and days and days and days. So yeah, your energy affects everyone around you and your
Protects.
food.
Yeah, you could protect your like as he's saying there. You could protect your food. Protect. You could also protect your loved ones. Protect the people around you, just with energy. And like Angel taught me this thing about like swirling energy around yourself. Like say you're feeling negative, like attacks and judgments, you could swirl energy around yourself from the sky to the earth in a clockwise direction, deflecting all negativity into the ground to be cleansed and given back to where it belongs, which is very grounding, very healing, and very protective. And it actually does work. Like whenever I feel down or feel bad, and like going into somewhere, and I do this and surround myself, like it alleviates a lot of stress, a lot of my own judgment and fears. Thoughts about what I'm going to experience when I go into class, or like it just helps like destroy all those judgments.
Mhm.
So energy, you can protect things, and that's where I was going
Mhm.
with that.
And you said about belief that you're able to do these things, and this is part of mindfulness. So the mindfulness will give you that confidence. It will build up your confidence. It's an esteem thing. So self-esteem is not about pretending I'm so great and ignoring all the bad stuff, but bad, in quotation marks, but just being integrated. And that's going to give you real esteem. Like I am who I am, and it's going to help you esteem other people
Yeah,
as well around. But start from yourself. As you said, you couldn't love your daughter more than you loved yourself,
yeah,
even though you wanted to. And
exactly.
so that's what
And you feel
catalyzed
it. You
you.
feel like you love them more and all these things, but you don't know how to do it.
Mhm.
I didn't, at least. I want to say everyone doesn't, but I would say probably everyone doesn't.
But
But
we can all get better.
yeah,
We can all get better.
we could all
We can
learn
all
new
learn.
skills. Yeah,
Yeah,
like skills,
absolutely.
because I never had them when I was growing up, and I'm grateful as hell for Angel for giving me those skills and giving me that heart back, so that like even the people who have caused me pain don't cause me pain. I wish them well, if that makes sense. Because when you don't wish well, that causes you pain.
Right.
When you're wishing hate, that causes you pain. It opens the door to pain. Like I wish bad for you. That allows 100 people to wish bad against you. You know, so if you're wishing well, people wishing bad for you doesn't hit your energy field because you're putting out love. You can't take in the hate like that. It will protect you.
Mm.
You know, so
So that loving your enemy is not, about, it's not for the enemy. You can think of it as for yourself, because when you love
right.
your enemy, as you said, you're changing your environment, and
Hmm.
so that bad things aren't as going to stick to you as
Yeah.
easily, because you don't have these bad intentions. Like, that person ripped me off. Like, I spoke to this woman, that this guy ripped her off $20,000, right? She's right to hate him. She's right. But if she hates him and wishes that he gets struck by lightning or run over by a truck, this wishing is negative, and it's going to affect
Hurt
her.
her. Yeah.
It's going
No.
to
Yeah.
hurt her. So be careful in your life. But when shit has happened, love your enemy, because it's for you.
Yeah, yeah,
And
like
love your.
go through the pain, like because you're gonna feel the pain and upset. It's just don't let it linger on for days and weeks,
Like, it's okay to
and
hate them,
yeah,
like,
yeah, to feel
allow
that in the moment.
yourself,
Yeah,
but just
be
know that you're
human.
in a process. Know
Yeah,
that you're in a
exactly.
process. And part of that, to love your enemy is going back to that mindfulness. It all starts from there. That's the core. That love the enemy within you. Love that part of you that you don't want to love. That's your own personal enemy. Love that too. And
Yeah,
then that will help you in everything else.
yeah, exactly.
All
All
right, we
right.
went full circle.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thanks for watching. And if you do have any questions or want us to talk about something or suggest
Absolutely.
something,
Absolutely.
we would love to hear from you.
Yeah.
So thank
Let
you.
us know. Let
Yeah,
us know.
thank you.